Welcome to the Cairo Museum in Egypt. Today I will be your tour guide and show you the exciting wonders that involve King Tutankhamun. Many of you may know who King Tut was, but for those that don't, he was one of Egypt's kings, or pharaohs as they used to call them. He is better known for being the only king whose tomb was left intact for more than 3,000 years. That's older than all of our grandparents. I am someone that really loves history. I like reading about it, and so I have done various research involving the ancient civilization of Egypt, but more specifically with King Tut. I follow the news, I follow archaeologists' findings, and I like to look at vlogs. And ever since the tomb was discovered, it just has kept me fascinated, so I like learning about those type of things. The discovery was very incredible, and it has led us to learn more about Egyptian pharaohs and the beliefs of the past. First, I will talk to you about the discovery of the tomb, then I will talk to you about the life and death of King Tut, and lastly, I will talk to you about the impact that he has had on research, history, and technology. So first, we've made it to our first stop, where I will talk to you about the history. In 1922, many tombs were discovered in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, and according to John Darnell, an Egyptologist from Yale University, in a 2005 article published on the National Geographic website, Howard Carter discovered the tomb, which is located near the entrance of King Ramses VI's tomb. Then he began a very long excavation, and he discovered that there were 4 rooms. In the last room, he found many artifacts, including the most important one of all, which was a sarcophagus. He opened the sarcophagus and noticed that there were 3 coffins in there. In the last coffin, which is completely made out of gold, he found the mummy of King Tut. Many Egyptologists thought that Howard Carter did an excellent job in taking 5,000 pictures of various artifacts that were found in the tomb, but that he did indeed damage the mummy. The mummy was stuck to the sarcophagus because of hardened resins, so he decided to take the mummy out into the desert sun to try to melt those off, but that did not work. So he ended up just cutting the mummy loose, and a lot of archaeologists looked down upon him for damaging the body that way. I just talked to you about the discovery, and he was discovered by Howard Carter. And now we will go to the actual exhibit where you will be able to see the ugly mummy with your own 2 eyes. So according to Karsten Pusch, a geneticist, in a 2010 National Geographic article, King Tut was born to King Akhenaten and Akhenaten's sister in 1341 BCE. So yes, his parents were brother and sister. And you guys may know that when a brother and sister their incest, a lot of malformations and abnormalities occur, and this is why King Tut was so frail. He had necrosis on one of his feet, and necrosis is when he had dead body tissue on his foot, and that would have caused for him to walk, and it would have been painful and very difficult. So the need of a cane would be necessary, and indeed they found various and many canes in his tomb. He became king when he was around 9 or 10 years old after his father died. And nobody really liked King Tut because prior to that, his father tried to make everyone believe in one god, and Egyptians believe in many gods. He was in power for about 10 years when he passed away at the age of 18. A lot of people speculate about what he died of, but recently, DNA tests have shown that he had a strand of malaria in his body, and he had the deadliest form of malaria, Malaria tropica, which would have caused him to have various infections throughout his life and eventually cause his death. To this day, people still wonder if that's what he really died of. Other theories are that he crashed in his chariot, that he died of a blood infection, or that he suffered a blow to the head because he has a dent on the side of his head. So he lived a very horrible life. It wasn't pleasant for a king. Now we will go to the third part of the exhibit, where I will talk to you about the impact that he had. He was perhaps a worthless leader. He didn't do much, and he wasn't liked by many of the people. But he did have a huge impact on the research of geneticists and Egyptologists, and he did impact history and showed the potential that technology has. King Tut his tomb was one of the few that was intact, so when Egyptologists discovered it, there were many items in there that we had never seen before. And so those items helped us learn about the beliefs from the past. One important belief that the Egyptians had was about the afterlife. In order to get to the afterlife, your body had to be preserved. And so it was a very long, tedious process, and therefore it was very expensive, and only royalty could afford it. And King Tut was royalty, so he was mummified. According to Paul Shem in a 2010 article piece of NBC.com, CT scans and DNA testing have proven to be very useful in deciphering the many mysteries that came along with King Tut. Back in 1922, we would have never known that he became king at the age of 9 or 10, or that he died at the age of 18. It would have been almost impossible to even come up with ideas of how he passed away, like the DNA testing with malaria. So because of technology today, we have been able to learn a lot about the past and about his life. Now that we have finished our exhibit, I will now start to wrap things up. The discovery of King Tut has led us to learn more about the beliefs of the past because his tomb was the only one that was intact. I first went over the discovery of the tomb, it was discovered by Howard Carter. Then I talked about his life. He became king at the age of 9 and died at 18. And lastly, I talked about the impact he has had on research, technology, and history. So congratulations, you have now finished your tour in the Cairo Museum. Next time you find yourself in Egypt, make sure to visit us again and look at other exhibits, including other mummies. Or you can go on your own excavation because you never know, you might be the next Howard Carter and discover your own mummy. Thank you.